Ted Alex disappeared on Saturday, April 24th, 2004. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Jeremy Alex's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. 28-year-old Jeremy Alex had a carefree approach to life.
He worked to live. He didn't live to work.
As a teen, he followed the Grateful Dead around the country.
He was definitely charismatic and had a sense of humor, and he had that draw.
But just before he disappears, Jeremy is discovered in a terrified state.
Very frightened, saying that people were threatening to hurt him, bad guys were trying to hurt him.
When extensive searches fail to find him, his family is at a loss.
We were questioning whether he was actually lost in the woods or if somebody had done something to him.
They suspect someone is hiding the truth.
And I truly believe that some of those people did know, never came forward.
Is Jeremy the victim of misadventure or foul play?
I've already played that worst-case scenario in my head multiple ways.
To his family and friends, Jeremy Alex is known as a free spirit who loves music, playing chess, and the great outdoors near his home in rural Belfast, Maine.
Jeremy was a minimalist, and up in Belfast, that's really the way of life. It's a town where all the hippies moved to, and that's just their mantra up there. Now, Jeremy's lived in places that had outhouses and no bathrooms, so growing up in Belfast, he just really always liked the juxtaposition of the ocean and the forest and the woods and the mountains.
In April of 2004, Jeremy's father and stepmother, Ted and Susan Alex, who live in New Hampshire, are making plans to visit Jeremy in Maine and take him out for a belated birthday celebration.
It was his 28th birthday. Ted and I didn't always get up to Belfast as much as we would like, so we called him and left him a kind of a funny message and told him that we would be coming up and that we wanted to take him out.
Once a rebellious teenager, in recent years, Jeremy has rebuilt strong connections with his family.
I saw changes for the positive. He had a share of issues growing up. His parents divorced, you know, he had a stepfather and I was a stepmother. And, you know, Jeremy was angry during his teenage years, but during his 20s, Jeremy really started to come around.
Ted is used to Jeremy going his own way. He knows his son has a bit of gypsy in his soul.
Jeremy was a free spirit kid, very intelligent, kind of earthy, did what he wanted to do. He lived, you know, different places in Maine. Also, he lived in California. He traveled around.
Jeremy's stepmother, Susan, came to love Jeremy like a son after she married his dad when Jeremy was 6 years old.
One of the driving pleasures and forces in Jeremy's life is music. He has cases full of CDs that he burned, and one of the bands that he loved was the Grateful Dead. When he was around 17 or 18, he started following the Dead. And for about 2 years, he basically went cross-country in a van following the Dead. And he made his living selling grilled cheese sandwiches out of the back of the van. So Ted and I would always joke that we knew he wouldn't starve to death because he had grilled cheese.
Kathy Langelier is one of Jeremy's closest and oldest friends.
He was extremely welcoming, really kind. You know, right away from when he first met me, I felt really at ease with him, and he had these great smiling eyes. We both loved music, so that was one thing that we instantly clicked with, the Grateful Dead and going to shows, so we had that in common. We had environmental concerns that were similar, and our eyes were big, and we wanted to make changes and in our own little ways.
As a child, Jeremy spent his summers with Ted and Susan, but lived most of the year with his mother in Belfast, Maine, a picturesque town of 6,000 plus people on Penobscot Bay. As an adult, it became his home base, the place he always returned to.
I think Jeremy did odd jobs, whatever it took to make a living up in Maine, and I think it's very difficult to make a living up in Maine.
Jeremy was the kind of kid, you know, and I admired this about him. He worked to live. He didn't live to work. So he didn't make a lot of money, but he made enough money to live, and his needs were very simple.
Only 5 feet 7 inches tall, Jeremy is a short guy. Still, his former girlfriend, Suzanne Forkerin, says he could light up a room.
He has an exuberant personality, and, you know, instantly people are attracted and just want to hang out with him because he was fun.
But in the spring of 2004, some of his friends are growing concerned about him. Something seems to be altering his normally cheerful personality.
He definitely was not acting himself. He was paranoid, and I believe he was throwing out accusations, false accusations, because of this paranoia. That, of course, frustrated friends and left a lot of confusion, and he was starting to draw away from people, and he was mistrusting people.
Early on Monday morning, April 26th, Jeremy's dad, Ted Alex, turns his cell phone on. There's a message from Jeremy's phone, but it isn't from Jeremy. It's from the Belfast police.
They said that they had found Jeremy's cell phone, his keys, his van, and they were in the process of searching for him. When they found his cell phone, they basically saw Dad, called my number, left me a message.
Ted and Susan are mystified. They know their son is about to move into a new house in Northport, a village just outside of Belfast, with his girlfriend Suzanne. Jeremy's stepmother calls her right away.
It was probably about 7 a.m. She said the Belfast Police Department called. She said that they have his cell phone and they had found his van, and they won't tell her anymore.
Suzanne got upset about it, and she seemed more upset than I was, which sort of upset me, and she was going to go over to the police station when we hung up, which she did.
Suzanne has reason to be upset. She knows something Ted and Susan do not. Suzanne last saw Jeremy Saturday morning, 2 days earlier.
I thought he was gonna pop a vein right then because he was huffing, puffing, and he wasn't in his right mind. He was disoriented and saying the bad guys were after him. He was like, the bad guys are after me.
Jeremy has been staying at their new house in Northport, getting it ready for the two of them to move into. On her way to the police station, Suzanne stops there. It is evident that Jeremy made it back there after his outburst on Saturday morning.
But when I got to the house, the door was open with the keys in the lock, and all the furniture he had moved was already in the house.
But there is no sign of Jeremy.
I hurried into Belfast to talk to the police, see what's going on, and when I got there, they told me nobody had seen him since Saturday afternoon. And it's like white just washes over you, and it's like weird. It's a weird feeling.
Coming up, an encounter with a desperate and disturbed Jeremy.
He was, according to the witnesses, hallucinating, in a panic, not acting normal, very frightened.
On Sunday, April 25th, 2004, police investigate an unlocked van parked in a small, secluded area of Northport, Maine. They find Jeremy Alex's cell phone, registration, and keys inside. They see a message on the phone from Ted Alex, Jeremy's father, and call him. Ted and his wife Susan immediately leave for Northport, Maine.
At first, we just thought, he was lost in the woods. I mean, obviously he had disappeared, but, maybe he had just got lost in the woods up there.
It was shocking, but at the same time, you don't really think anything horrific at that point. You just think something's not right, and you drive up hoping that, it's some sort of misunderstanding.
Meanwhile, Jeremy's girlfriend, Suzanne Forkerin, thinks back over events of the last few days. Events Jeremy's parents know nothing about. Jeremy and Suzanne have been together for more than 3 years. They met through mutual friends in Belfast, and she later followed him to a landscaping job in New York State.
I felt a draw to him and somehow knew before that we were going to be together.
There was this really strong bond between the two of them, and I think a lot of it had to do with that they were such good friends. It was a beautiful evolution to watch their relationship.
At first, Suzanne is attracted to the way Jeremy treats people and that he is a straight-up guy.
He wasn't smoking cigarettes, he wasn't drinking, he wasn't smoking. And, you know, to me, I was like, wow, that's cool, you know? He was straight edge almost.
But after they return to Maine, that changes. Belfast, like many rural communities, has problems with drugs. She discovers Jeremy is not immune to their attractions.
It was really weird because he wouldn't use all the time. Like every 6 months, he would go on like a weekend binge and I'll just keep it out of my face. I don't want to know.
Recently, she says, Jeremy's drug use has become more frequent. The last happy day Suzanne and Jeremy spend together is Thursday, April 22nd. They travel to Sugarloaf Mountain in Jeremy's van.
And we went snowboarding. It was actually a really fun day. We all had fun. It was getting warm because it was in April, but there was still snow and slushy.
When they get home late in the afternoon, Jeremy seems eager to separate for the night, saying he is busy moving their things into their new house. But Suzanne is suspicious.
I imagined, okay, he's probably gonna go on a binge. And so I'm kind of stubborn. Like, once I get my feelings hurt, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna call him. He's gonna do what he's gonna do. He can call me when he's done.
It is Saturday morning before she sees Jeremy again. When he arrives at her house, he is angry and accusatory.
He said, you and 2 other mutual friends of ours were outside my house last night with ski masks. And I'm all, what? That's when I realized it was cocaine because he wasn't in his right mind. I could tell when he started talking like that. I just started crying and I went into my room. You know, it was overwhelming. I'm sad and I'm in there crying.
Just as abruptly, Suzanne says, Jeremy's manner changes and he tries to comfort her and apologizes.
And he came into my room and he's like, I'm really sorry. If you need to talk, you know where I'll be.
But when she joins him downstairs, as he loads up some furniture to take to their new house, he is distant and ignores her pleas to tell her what's wrong.
And I'm like, you know what? He needs to go home, sleep it off for a couple days, and I'll talk to him, you know, in a couple days because this is not going anywhere.
It is 5:20 p.m., Saturday evening, hours after Suzanne last sees Jeremy, when a woman in a house off Pound Hill Road in Northport is startled by a young man erupting from the woods into her yard. She calls her husband over. The woman recognizes Jeremy Alex from his student days at Belfast High School, where she used to work.
She actually recognized Jeremy.
He looks agitated and is clutching cash in his hand.
The husband went over, saw that Jeremy was in a distressed condition.
He was, according to the witnesses, hallucinating, in a panic, not acting normal, very frightened.
Holly Edwards, editor of The Village Soup, was a reporter covering Jeremy's disappearance in 2004.
The circumstances as to how the eyewitnesses encountered Jeremy was the most unusual thing. He was saying that people were threatening to hurt him, bad guys were trying to hurt him.
He said that somebody was after him, someone was going to kill him. At that point, Jeremy offered the money that he had in his hand to the man if that person would let him go.
The couple doesn't know what to make of Jeremy's story. They try to calm him down, but when the woman goes to call 911, he panics.
He refused to stay with them even though they were going to try to get him help, and then sort of took off in a panic, running again.
The couple reports the incident and identifies the young man to police as Jeremy Alex. As the weekend unfolds, nobody else sees or hears from Jeremy.
for 2 days. I just thought he was home sleeping it off, being stubborn and not calling him. And in all reality, he wasn't even at home. He was wherever he was.
On Sunday, the police go through Jeremy's van, parked near the house where he was last seen, and call Jeremy's father, Ted Alex. By the time Ted and Susan Alex arrive, it is Monday afternoon.
Everything was just as if, you know, he got out of the van and planned on coming back.
Jeremy's girlfriend Suzanne and some of his other friends are already there and have been searching the neighboring woods on their own.
The woods in Maine are kind of treacherous. It's not like you're just walking to a park. You're kind of stumbling and trying to get through the woods and not get scratched up. And so, we just yelled and looked and just hoping that we would see him or something.
It was such a bizarre scenario. It was confusing. There were certain key things that Jeremy wouldn't normally leave behind, and he had, and I'm not sure why he was there.
It's stressful. It's a stressful feeling. Worry. People are starting to worry.
Ted Alex is concerned, but he is also still optimistic that Jeremy will be found soon. Yet he knows that his son will not be able to survive many more of Maine's cold April nights without shelter. He is comforted, knowing that a full-scale search led by the Maine Warden Service, and including canine units and volunteers, is scheduled to take place the next day.
All the dogs and some of the searchers have tracking devices on them. They'll search a grid area. After the search, everything will be downloaded in a computer. They'll look at areas that might not have been searched, research them, and then go to the next grid area.
However, the extensive search fails to turn up any signs of Jeremy. Police accounts of his strange encounter with the couple in Northport have already reached his family and his girlfriend, Suzanne. Suzanne remembers Jeremy telling her that he thought people were after him. At the time, she thought his paranoia was due to drugs. But now, she begins to wonder.
Maybe there was somebody after him, because he mentioned it to me, he mentioned it to his friends, and he also mentioned it to the lady and the man that tried to help him at the end. Is that in his mind or from the drug use, or was it really happening?
Maybe what he was saying was in fact true, and it wasn't a hallucination. It was really what caught our interest and caught the community's interest.
News accounts of the search bring tips. A motorist tells police that a man resembling Jeremy crossed Route 1 on foot ahead of her on the Saturday evening he disappeared. When she passed him, she spied him in the rearview mirror, crossing back over the road again.
Where he was headed to is anyone's guess. Whether he was trying to get back home, whether he was oriented enough to try to get back home, it's hard to tell what he was thinking.
On Wednesday, April 28th, Jeremy's stepmother, now overcome with worry, vents her frustration on some of Jeremy's friends and acquaintances in the search party.
I literally said, if you know something, this is becoming life and death for Jeremy. If he's out there, it's cold, we don't have a lot of time. If he's not and something bad happened to him, you have to let us know. No one said anything.
Coming up, secrets are revealed.
I did try and hide the fact that there was drug use.
And suspicions grow.
We were questioning whether he was actually lost in the woods or if somebody had done something.
Jeremy Alex's strange disappearance makes headlines in Maine as soon as the official search begins.
In the beginning, they were absolutely just looking for someone who was in some sort of distress and then might have become hurt, lost in the woods. That part of Northport, there's not a lot of houses. They're few and far between, and so it would be very easy to get lost in the woods there. So I think it was just truly treated as a missing person, an unusual missing person in how it all came about, but really just as a missing person.
Ted Alex pursues every avenue he can to find his son.
He stepped in, and he's a kind of in-charge type person, kind of like Jeremy.
I rented a helicopter for 12:30, and we're going to go up and look some more.
And he was doing everything that he could do, because the time is critical, and it had already been 2 days before we even heard that he had disappeared.
Ted and Jeremy's stepmom stay in close touch with Suzanne, since she knows the community and was one of the last people to see Jeremy.
Susie was our connection with these friends of Jeremy's. We were just fish out of water up there.
Suzanne obviously had an insight to days before the event, which we didn't have. She had spent time with Jeremy. She knew his mindset, what he had been doing, where he had been.
Originally, Suzanne had tried to cover up Jeremy's drug use.
I did try and hide the fact that there was drug use because I was like, if he's found, I don't want him to get in trouble, you know?
When she first learned from police that Jeremy was missing, she went to the house they were moving into in Northport and cleaned up, flushing drugs down the toilet. That information comes as a shock to Jeremy's family.
We knew that he smoked pot, but never, heroin and cocaine. And that's what Susie had found and flushed down the toilet was, heroin and cocaine.
Those drugs obviously took their toll on him. Paranoid is a word that we heard a lot about his behavior the last 2 or 3 days. There probably were people that he was dealing with that were, unscrupulous, not the kind of people that you want your kid hanging around with.
A friend of Jeremy's tells the Alexes that she spent Friday night, the night before Jeremy disappeared, doing drugs with him at the house in Northport.
They had stayed up most of Friday night. They were doing cocaine and they were doing heroin. She left Saturday morning. When she left, she, was concerned that Jeremy should stop.
I finally did tell the police, okay, I went to his house and I tried to get rid of the evidence of drug use. And it got really overwhelming, and one of the state police or state detectives, he had me outside and he was just questioning me, like, you need to tell me where he got his drugs. They could have a bullet in his head. And
it was a double-edged sword for the police department because, there were drugs involved and they needed to deal with that.
Once the police begin looking into the drug connection, Jeremy's family says many of his friends seem to shy away from speaking to them.
I think they all cared about Jeremy gone missing, but I think they had hesitation when it came to giving information to the police.
Meanwhile, the efforts to find Jeremy continue. A second official search begins on May 2nd, 8 days after Jeremy was last seen. Friends cling to the hope that the wood-savvy Jeremy knows how to survive in the wild.
Jeremy was an extremely resourceful individual and clever, very clever. I think he could have survived, absolutely. Yes, I do.
he knew a lot about making fires. He could live out in the outdoors for a while.
But the search turns up no signs of him. Hopes for finding Jeremy alive in the woods begin to fade.
As the days went on and there were cold nights, we knew that it was inevitable that he wouldn't be alive. I mean, if he was still in the woods.
Perhaps Jeremy isn't in the woods. Could Jeremy, who's known to pick up and go on a whim, actually be somewhere far from Belfast, Maine?
You know, there was always in our mind a question whether he was actually, you know, a little bit like, okay, maybe he just took off.
Then, investigators get a lead from another motorist who saw Jeremy as she was driving on Pound Hill Road the afternoon he disappeared. She told police he was talking to two men in a red pickup truck.
That was a truck of interest. The police talked about it, and we were hopeful that it meant something.
The area where Jeremy's van was found in Northport, we subsequently learned was a place that was commonly used for drug activity. It's isolated, but it's easy to get to.
So they don't know if he went to this place to meet somebody.
The two guys, in my mind, sort of bolstered Jeremy's story that people might have been after him.
Months go by with no other leads. Then, in September of 2004, 5 months after Jeremy disappears, there is one final search over the terrain around Northport. The searchers find nothing. With the coming winter, the official searches will end. By now, Ted and Susan suspect that Jeremy is lost not to the woods, but to foul play.
As the time progressed, we were questioning whether he was actually lost in the woods or if somebody had done something to him.
Maybe he owed money to somebody, maybe they owed money to him. I don't know, but if you put two and two together, that's sort of what you come up with.
Coming up, the case is about to go cold when a stranger comes forward with tantalizing new information about Jeremy.
He said that he had Jeremy's license and he had his money. You know, you kind of think about how could this possibly be? It's been 4 years.
In the days after 28-year-old Jeremy Alex disappeared under mysterious circumstances in 2004, hopes were high that he would be found in the woods into which he was last seen fleeing. But months and 3 extensive searches later, those hopes die.
To have someone disappear, it's definitely unusual in any community, but I think that the circumstances surrounding how Jeremy appeared and then disappeared is what is really stymied the entire community.
From their home in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Jeremy's father, Ted, and stepmother, Susan, continue to monitor their son's case, poring over maps of the area where he went missing. The couple do what they can to keep Jeremy's disappearance in the public eye, putting up posters promising a reward which rises to $20,000.
The family was really good about keeping the media spotlight on as much as they possibly could. They had a website and they made regular contact with us.
It wasn't a lot to do, but put posters out and talk to people. We would just go through and put these posters, you know, wherever we could.
The posters generate tips, some of them very disturbing.
There were a lot of rumors going around of foul play. Jeremy was killed, thrown in a granite quarry. I'd go up and search the quarries. Somebody heard that Jeremy was killed and buried or thrown in a well. We just followed the tips that I would get on the phone, unrelated to what the police were, you know, dealing with.
But Jeremy remains missing. Months after he disappears, his girlfriend Suzanne has a vivid dream that the two of them are together once more.
We were hugging and it just felt so real and so like the energy, and he actually is like, well, I have to say goodbye now. And then when I woke up, it felt like I'd really just been talking to him and hugging him. And it was pretty intense.
Jeremy's family and friends struggle with a sense of hopelessness. And then, almost 6 months after Jeremy's disappearance, there is a tantalizing new development. Tips come in that a young man resembling Jeremy has appeared out of the woods in another part of Maine.
There were some unusual sightings in Owl's Head, which is about a half an hour south of Northport, straight down Route 1. 2 people had reported seeing this person come out of the woods, not saying anything, looking very disheveled, and they swore that this was Jeremy, that it looked exactly like Jeremy.
Wayne Drinkwater owns a soup and sandwich shop in Belfast. He says he sees the young man on property he owns near Owl's Head.
I had seen the posters of Jeremy, but it looked just like Jeremy. And I asked him his name, and he didn't seem to be there. He didn't seem to respond. And I came back to Belfast, and I called the sheriff. And I said, I think I found Jeremy.
But when police pursue the lead, it turns out to be another dead end.
There just happens to be someone who looks very much like Jeremy, who has some mental health issues.
In a cruelly ironic twist, the lookalike's name is also Jeremy. He has been lost in the woods briefly after wandering away from his family. After the disappointment of the false Jeremy Alex sightings, Ted asks the Maine State Police to get involved. In 2006, more than 2 years after Jeremy's disappearance, they launch a special search of a local pond.
On August 25th, 2006, we found out that the state police were going to do a search at a pond called Knight's Pond in Northport.
someone had got arrested and told the police that her boyfriend or whatever said that he had killed Jeremy and threw him in Knight's Pond.
According to our information, they had gotten a tip that they should look in Knight's Pond, and they did. They sent a diver and searched the pond and didn't find anything.
2 more years pass by, with no apparent headway in the case. Then, in August of 2008, an intriguing new lead comes to Jeremy's dad. At first, he is suspicious.
Offering the reward, unfortunately, brought out some people that just were calling for the reward. So I, was really wary of this one email I received, one day from a gentleman that said that he had Jeremy's license and he had his money. You kind of think about how could this possibly be? It's been 4 years.
The email comes from Jim Baker, a retired California Highway Patrol officer who owns a restaurant in Searsport, Maine, just outside of Belfast. He hasn't followed the Jeremy Alex saga closely.
The one time that I think I can clearly remember reading or seeing something about it was a poster that was in the gas station with his picture on it, and it basically had his name and that he was missing. But I really didn't know much more about it other than that.
The story of how he comes to be in possession of Jeremy's driver's license and money is stranger than fiction. It begins on a night in April 2004, shortly after Jeremy goes missing.
My best friend that lived across the bay from us, Tim Dougal, he came in one night, started talking to me about how he had hit the big time or hit the jackpot because money was washing up on his beach. He and his wife had been out beachcombing like they did a lot of times and had started to find small denomination bills amongst the rocks. And he had pulled out a small wad of bills. I remember joking with him, telling him, well, you're buying drinks for everybody tonight. And he said, no, 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 no. We collect stuff on the beach and we keep it. And so he put it back in his pocket. And that was the end of that for quite some time.
On April 23, 2008, almost 4 years to the day after Jeremy Alex disappeared, Jim's friend Tim is killed in a freak accident at his oceanfront property. When his widow Debbie returns to the weekend getaway, months later, she asks Jim to come over.
She started to relate the story about finding the money on the beach. And I remember asking her, you guys saved that money? And she says, oh yeah, it's all in there, buried under some sea glass and along with the driver's license that we had found at the same time. They kind of caused me to pause, and I don't know if it's my background or what it was, but I instantly had this strange feeling. And I said, did you guys ever contact anybody or anything? She said, no, we really didn't, think about it.
Inside a glass vase, buried in a collection of sea glass and other objects, Jim Baker finds the money and the driver's license.
I looked at it and saw Jeremy's face and his name, and I instantly remembered that poster. And I said to her, I said, Debbie, I said, I think this is a kid that went missing a couple of years ago or so.
Coming up, an important new clue shifts the search for Jeremy from the woods to the water.
A body would just be carried out straight down that channel right out into the ocean.
You would rather know than not, even if it's the worst case scenario.
It has been 4 years since Jeremy Alex went missing. Now, former Highway Patrol officer Jim Baker holds an important piece of the puzzle, his driver's license. Jim visits internet sites about Jeremy Alex and confirms that the license must have belonged to Jeremy and that he is still missing. He notifies the authorities.
I basically told him, look, this is who I am, where I live, and this is what I found. I think somebody needs to call me. In the meantime, nobody called me back for a while, and so I sent Ted an email with the same information.
Days later, the license and money that were first found on the beach in April of 2004 are in the hands of the state police.
The best that we could determine was probably within a couple of days of his disappearance. That's when they started to find the stuff on the beach. Jeremy was last seen with some money in his hand and then took off in the direction of the coast and in the general direction of Tim and Deb's house.
For Ted, it is one more terribly ironic twist.
We were in that neighborhood searching. We put posters up on the street where they lived. They just never put two and two together that this could possibly be a lost person. And that's the sad part about it, because 4 years, you know, there's not a lot of evidence, even if there was other things washed up on shore.
Ted goes back to the area and searches the rocky beach where Jeremy's license and money were found. For months, he returns, looking for another sign or clue that might lead him to Jeremy.
You know, if he was running towards the beach and towards the cliffs, disoriented, not sure where he was, frightened, whatever, you know, is it possible that he went off the cliff into the water?
But 4 years later, there is no further trace of Jeremy to be found here. These days, life in Belfast, Maine goes on pretty much the same as it always has. Historic houses grace the heights above the waterfront. Lobster fishermen ply the waters of Penobscot Bay alongside pleasure boats. Shops and restaurants cater to tourists who are just passing through. There is still just one stoplight in the center of town. The only late-night bar attracts the same loyal locals it has for decades. And Jeremy Alex is still missing.
We've had a missing poster since we got the first one in 2004, days afterwards. And when it starts to wear out from the sun, we print another one out. The family's been pretty good about, you know, sending us updates.
Ted calls, you know, the police that are working on it and, you know, may occasionally talk to them, but there hasn't been probably any movement, and at least that we know of, in maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and that's a long time.
The Maine State Police say they don't publicly discuss open cases.
The police have not shared with us directly any theories. I think that they believe, as the family does, that something bad has happened to Jeremy. It's still very much an open case to them.
Ted and Susan are divorced now. They say they're still close and united in their efforts to do anything they can to find Jeremy. Their biggest hope is that people who have been reluctant to offer information in the past might be willing to speak today, at least anonymously, to put their minds at rest.
And I truly believe that some of those people did know, never came forward. And we've tried. We've gone back up there. We've tried going to their houses. We've tried pleading with them just to let us know it would be anonymous, but nothing.
Jeremy's friend Kathy shares that hope.
I want to feel that somebody knows something. It hurts. I miss him. I loved him very much. And I'm going to always miss him.
Noting the extensive searches for Jeremy, which turned up nothing, Susan and Ted both say they now believe Jeremy is a victim of foul play. They think he was involved with some shady people over drugs and became their victim.
I don't think Jeremy's in the woods. I think he's in the ocean, finding his license wash up in money. I think he was running, and whoever was chasing him caught him, and they took him out and did something to him and dropped the body.
Jim Baker believes that Jeremy may have fallen from the cliffs onto the rocks and been swept out to sea.
I've talked to people that have spent a lot of years up here on the water, and they don't find it unusual that a body would not come back up, that it would just be carried out straight down that channel right out into the ocean.
It is truly a mystery. So many possibilities.
The house where Suzanne and Jeremy lived before he disappeared is abandoned now and neglected. It is the last place Suzanne ever saw Jeremy, and 16 months after he disappeared, she returned to her native California.
It's almost like a wound that won't scar. I'm pretty strong, so some of it I take as, okay, that's part of my life, and he was in it, and I'm happy that I got to spend the time I did with him. Once that happened, I realized, like, oh, I need to go spend quality time with my family because people aren't here forever.
She still has the dog, Gonzo, Jeremy helped her pick out.
He's a connection to Jeremy, and actually sometimes he reminds me of Jeremy because he's feisty and he's short and he's got an attitude.
Back in Portsmouth, Jeremy's father established a charitable fund to help kids at risk, called the Jeremy Alex Fund.
What I've tried to do is try to help other people or other kids not end up like Jeremy. And I think that's just a way of healing for me.
Because chess was Jeremy's favorite game, the fund gives out chessboards to all the fourth graders in town, along with instructions on how to play.
We go in, we talk a little bit about Jeremy. I keep it light. I talk about, chess is a lot like life. You make decisions and you need to be responsible for your actions. And so they make the right decisions and they realize the consequences of what they do to themselves doesn't just affect them, it affects their family forever.
Friends and family say they know that after all this time, it is unlikely that Jeremy's story will have a happy ending. And none of them believe it is possible that Jeremy could have gone off somewhere for years without ever contacting the people closest to him.
A Father's Day would go by, or my birthday, or Susan's, and we knew that he would always call. He was considerate like that. Even though he was a free spirit, he knew my cell phone number and he knew to call.
Jeremy had too big of a heart to put people through this, or to put Ted and his family and Suzanne and then the rest of his friends to have that emotional burden. I don't believe that Jeremy ever would do something like that. There would have been contact.
There's so much speculation around Jeremy's case because there are so many possibilities. He could still have just fallen into a well and could be out in the woods. But it could also be something, a part of a bigger piece of a puzzle, a group of people involved in something. We just don't know.
Susie Streeter, Stacy McCall, and Cheryl Levitt disappeared on Sunday, June 7th, 1992. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. The three women's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to them. Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall mysteriously vanish just hours after attending the girls' high school graduation.
Now you have three females that have just basically vanished without a trace.
There's an initial shock that is overwhelming. It was just a nightmare.
I've got to start trying to find her now.
But this bizarre missing persons case fuels more rumors than answers.
If they find remains there, then we're going to have to deal with it.
I believe that the three missing women are buried close to Springfield.
I am willing to be wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
February 1992. It's a bitter winter in the Queen City of the Ozarks, Springfield, Missouri. 42-year-old hairdresser and mother of two, Cheryl Levitt, is moving into a new home with her 19-year-old daughter, Susie Streeter. They're downsizing to a more modest home on Delmar Street after Cheryl's recent divorce.
It was a small little house that had incredible potential. And I think at the time she was going to fix it up and flip it and buy a bigger house.
Cheryl is a hard-working single mom and tries to instill her work ethic in her daughter. Susie is a senior at Kickapoo High School and works at the local movie theater after school. A few months after the move, Susie begins focusing on her upcoming high school graduation. She is spending a lot of time with her friend, Stacy McCall, who she's known since childhood.
You know, it was senior week and they had a lot of activities. They were, going to the senior breakfast, that type of organization type thing.
Susie and Stacy are feeling nostalgic and want to make the most of their last days of high school together, according to Stacy's mother, Janice McCall.
They started focusing back on their childhood. They were realizing that not all of them were going to be going to college and that they would kind of split apart a little bit.
Janelle Kirby is a friend of both Stacy and Susie in high school.
The three of us didn't hang out a whole lot together. It was more, I did a lot of stuff with Stacy, and I also did stuff with Susie.
The three teens have big plans for their summer.
We were ready for the water parks, the pools, shopping, and getting ready for college.
In the fall, Janelle and Stacy McCall will attend Missouri State University.
Stacy and I plan to go to college together and possibly join a sorority.
Susie tells her brother she would like to follow in her mother Cheryl's footsteps and become a hairstylist.
Mom and Susie were extremely close. They understood each other, they were bonded, they got each other. I believe Susie wanted to go into cosmetology because she looked up to my mom so much, and she wanted to be like my mother.
Kickapoo High School is planning an alcohol-free graduation party for the night of June 6th. It's called Project Graduation.
They had a pledge that they had to sign that they would come without any alcohol or anything else and would be there all night long, and they could not leave. They would be locked in.
But the girls decide not to sign up and make their own plans.
They wouldn't have been unlocked until about 8 o'clock the next morning, which would have changed things dramatically.
It's graduation day in Springfield, Missouri. The girls attend the ceremony at MSU campus.
Stacy and I went shopping the night before, bought all kinds of new clothes. You know, everybody was just really happy. Graduation was coming. We couldn't be happier.
And I was patting myself on the back because all my daughters had made it through graduation. We didn't have any catastrophes. All of them would be in college, so we were looking forward to that.
After the graduation, the three girls head out for family dinners and later meet up at Janelle's house for a party at her neighbor's.
There was a series of parties that the girls were to attend that evening. They traveled to Branson, Missouri, which is approximately 30 minutes from here.
The girls plan to sleep at a motel in Branson, close to Whitewater, an outdoor water park, where they will enjoy their first full day of summer vacation.
It's going to be a beautiful day to just hang out on our first day graduated.
Stacy's mother, Janice, is not happy about the girls' plan to sleep at a motel. Then, she hears from Stacy around 10 p.m. She's relieved to learn the girls have decided to stay at their friend Janelle's house instead.
We were having fun at the party. It was getting late. We just didn't want to leave the party and drive to Branson, so we just decided to go to the water park the next day.
Around the same time, Susie's mom, Cheryl, is home alone. As usual, she's busy working on a project in her house on Delmar Street.
Around 9:30 to 10 o'clock p.m., Cheryl Levitt was at home refinishing a piece of furniture that was in her bedroom and was planning to go to bed that evening.
After a long night of celebrating, the girls are ready to settle in for the night. But Janelle's house is packed with out-of-town relatives. They can't stay there after all.
My whole family lives in Kansas, and everybody came for my graduation.
So therefore, there was not a lot of room.
Their plans change again. Janelle stays at her own house, but Susie and Stacy decide to go to Susie's house on Delmar Street.
So they decided to leave and go to Susie's house and spend the night down there.
They leave in separate cars and agree to call Janelle in the morning when they wake up.
Looking back, I wish I'd begged them to stay and, you know, not let them leave, and we just would have all slept on the floor together.
It's a bright, sunny morning when Janelle wakes up, but she gets no phone call from her friends.
It was probably like 9 o'clock when I woke up. I hadn't heard from him, so I called. No one answered.
Janelle calls the house many times, trying to reach her friends Susie and Stacy, but no one answers.
Mike, my boyfriend, picked me up, and so we went to Susie's house. I had never been to the house before this. They had just moved there recently.
When Janelle and Mike arrive at the house on Delmar Street, it appears at first as though everyone is home.
When they arrived, Susie's vehicle was there, Stacy's vehicle was there, parked in the driveway, and Cheryl Levitt's car was in the carport area. So all three of the vehicles were at the residence.
They approach the house, but even before they knock, they see something out of the ordinary.
And when we got to the front porch, there was glass everywhere.
Janelle immediately notices that the globe covering the porch light at Susie's house is shattered, but the light bulb itself is intact. Nobody answers the door, but they think perhaps they are still sleeping. She and Mike grab a broom and sweep up the mess.
And so Mike just cleaned it up just to do a nice thing. We just went on in and was yelling for him, and no one answered.
Inside the house, everything appears normal at first. They peer into the rooms and see that Susie and her mother's beds look slept in.
In the bathroom, you could tell they took their makeup off. The jewelry was sitting there. The washcloths where they used to take their makeup off was sitting there.
It seems Susie and Stacy made it home from Janelle's house the previous night and got ready for bed.
There was basically no indication that there was anything out of the ordinary other than maybe they just weren't there at the time.
But as the minutes tick by in the empty house, Janelle can't help but sense that something just doesn't seem right. Cheryl's dog, a terrier named Cinnamon, is unusually anxious and barking.
Cinnamon was very excited. She was running around, and she wanted me to hold her, and like something was wrong.
The family dog was left unattended, which was not normal for this group.
And both Susie and her mother's cigarettes and lighters, items they rarely leave behind, are on the table.
My mom was a chain smoker. She went everywhere with her cigarettes. I mean, if she got out of bed and went into the living room to say something, she brought a cigarette with her.
Although Janelle and Mike are puzzled, they decide to leave. They have no idea where Cheryl is, but assume Susie and Stacy have gone to the water park without them.
Back then, we didn't have cell phones. There was no way to get a hold of anybody.
Just then, the phone at the Delmar house rings, and when Janelle Kirby answers, she is confronted by a strange and disturbing call. Coming up, could the call be linked to the 3 missing women?
It was a brief call, and the person didn't identify themselves.
When Janelle Kirby does not hear from her friends, Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall, on the morning of June 7th, 1992, she drives with her boyfriend to Susie's house, where the 2 girls slept. They discover that no one is home. Just before leaving the house, the phone rings.
Janelle Kirby was inside the residence and answered the telephone, hoping that it was someone giving information of Stacy and Susie being located.
But the call isn't helpful. Quite the opposite.
It was a brief call, and the person didn't identify themselves. It was a male voice that made sexual innuendos, and she hung up and immediately received a second call with also making sexual overtones.
Janelle hangs up, upset by the phone calls, which she thinks are probably a prank. She and Mike leave the house on Delmar Street, not sure if something is seriously wrong or if there's a logical explanation for their friend's absence. Meanwhile, Stacy's mother Janice and older sister Lisa are happily planning a trip to the local bridal shop to pick out Lisa's wedding dress. Janice tries to reach Stacy before heading out for the day. She calls Janelle Kirby's house, where, last she heard, her daughter was spending the night.
Janelle's sister answered the phone, and she said she's not here. She said at the last minute, Stacy had decided to go and spend the night with Susie.
Janice is unhappy that Stacy didn't tell her about her change of plans, but there's nothing she can do for the moment. She doesn't have the new phone number for Susie's family's home on Delmar Street, so she goes to the bridal salon. She is irritated with her daughter, but believes she will see her later that day. It's now been 15 hours since anyone has seen or heard from Stacy McCall, Susie Streeter, or Susie's mom, Cheryl Levitt, but no one knows if they are actually missing. Stacy's mom, Janice, finally tracks down Susie's new phone number. When no one answers the phone, Janice drives over to Susie's house.
So I started opening the door and saying, hello, hello, anybody home?
Somewhat reluctantly, Janice decides to walk in and look around.
I felt like I really shouldn't be in here, but I've got to find out where Stacy is, and things are getting stranger by the minute.
Just like Janelle hours earlier, Janice notices some unusual things about the way the house was left. Her daughter's clothes from the previous night are neatly folded on the floor, but her t-shirt and underwear are missing.
I noticed that the TV was all fuzzy. Stacy's purse was sitting right next to Susie's purse, and right next to that on the floor was Susie's mom Cheryl's purse. And I thought that was kind of strange. I think that's when I started feeling this is not right.
Janice is suddenly sick with worry. She calls the police to report Stacy missing.
And I was just really trying to hold it together. And they said, we are going to file this as a missing persons report.
It's late, so the officer asks Janice to come to the station the next morning. He makes an unsettling suggestion.
And that was can you get their dental records? And for me, if they want dental records, they're thinking they might be dead. And I think it really hit me hard that there was something really bad going on. And I thought, I've got to start trying to find her now.
Janice gets pictures taken at graduation developed and sets out to do something unimaginable just 24 hours after the ceremony. She is creating a missing person poster for her daughter. With the help of the Springfield community, Janice distributes the posters statewide.
Hi, I'm Mrs. McCall, and this is my daughter. Okay. And they're missing, and we'd like to put posters in your windows, on your doors. Okay.
Soon, they appear across the country, dubbed by the media as the Springfield Three. By now, police have developed a timeline. Sometime between the hours of 2 a.m. when the teenagers left Janelle Kirby's house and 8 a.m. when people started calling Susie's house, something happened to the three women. To complicate things, well-meaning friends and family who went to the crime scene may have removed critical evidence.
I don't think they intentionally tried to contaminate the crime scene or anything, but there was quite a few items that were moved inside the residence before the police were called, mainly just searching for clues or where they may have gone.
During Janice's frantic search, she played Cheryl and Susie's answering machine, most likely erasing a message that may have contained a clue for investigators.
There was a particular phone call that was received that evening that the police were very interested in.
There was a kind of a strange message. It was a man, and I don't remember what the message was. And somehow it got deleted.
The investigators don't believe that this message had any connection to the prank phone calls received at the house by Janelle Kirby. But with the message erased, they will never know for sure. The community starts flooding the police with tips.
The amount of calls and the amount of tips that came in on this case was more than I'd ever seen in my entire career prior to, and really more than I've seen in my career since then.
In a strange coincidence, a neighbor of the McCalls reports a stolen vehicle the same night the three went missing. The owner of the car is a classmate of Susie and Stacy's.
We're requesting individuals to look for a burgundy 1987 Toyota Supra two-door.
At first, I think they were putting a connection on that, but it turned out that the car was stolen from our area and not by Susie's house.
When the car turns up, days later, police can find no connection to the women's disappearance. Then, a waitress at Cheryl and Susie's favorite restaurant tells police she saw the three women eating between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on the night they went missing.
It's a popular place, and there was quite a few people there. Everybody that we could locate and identify as being there that evening were interviewed, and we could not corroborate that any of the three people were actually at the restaurant that evening.
More than 30 officers are assigned to the case. The FBI is called in, but the leads go nowhere.
And all the resources were pooled, and still it was overwhelming for the Springfield Police Department in this investigation. It became an animal of its own, and it was really consuming the whole entire city.
The city is gripped by fear, and the police are perplexed by the lack of evidence.
Now you have three females that have just basically vanished off the face of the earth without a trace.
Coming up, a shocking declaration during a police interrogation.
And when I heard that, a chill went up my spine.
If he was hoping they were dead, did he do it?
Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Stacy McCall have disappeared, seemingly without a trace. Police start gathering information on the three women. Nothing in any of their backgrounds suggests that they would simply run away, so they dig deeper. They start with Cheryl Levitt.
She worked and was a mother and did not have relationships at the time that would have been suspicious in nature.
Cheryl is a mother of two. Bart Streeter, her eldest, is 9 years older than Susie.
She was my baby sister, and I loved her. She just was sunshine.
But police learn that Bart's relationship with his mother is more complicated.
My mom said to me the same thing all parents say eventually, and that's if you want to live under my roof, you have to live by my rules. I didn't want to live by that rule, so I left.
At age 17, Bart moves out. But the tension with his mother continues for years. According to Bart, his mother struggles in her relationships with men who often have problems with alcohol. Bart says he falls into the same pattern of behavior.
She had family members who drank to excess, and she wanted me to quit, and I wasn't going to.
After 10 years of living on his own, Bart returns to Springfield in the fall of 1991.
I had a rough breakup with my girlfriend, and I needed a new start.
Bart and his little sister Susie decide to get an apartment together, which gives them a chance to get to know each other again. But Bart says his drinking gets in the way.
If I had not been drinking to excess, the relationship that I have with my mother and sister would have been completely different. I do regret the drinking at that time.
One night at Susie and Bart's place, things spiral out of control.
Susie came home late from the movie theater, and she told me to turn my music down. And I told her no, I wasn't going to turn my music down. It was Friday, and I was partying.
Bart Streeter and Susie had a physical altercation where she was arguing over him being under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time.
It got heated, and some stuff got thrown, and some stuff got broken, and we yelled and screamed and hollered at each other.
After the fight, Susie moves back in with her mother, Cheryl. They decide they have reached their limit with Bart's behavior and cut him out of their lives. Just 3 months later, before any chance of reconciliation, the two most important women in Bart's life are missing.
There was a message in my inbox to call the Springfield Police Department. They asked me if I had seen or heard from my mother and sister.
Streeter heads down to the station and quickly understands the situation is grave.
There's an initial shock that is overwhelming, and from there, it was just a nightmare.
The police immediately start looking at Bart Streeter as a suspect.
And looking into the background of the family and his family situation, there was things that piqued our interest as far as wanting to talk to him further about past disagreements with Susie and his mother.
Anybody that is close to the family, and especially men that are close to the family, brother, husband, boyfriend, you're initially considered a suspect.
Police question him to establish his whereabouts the night his mother and sister went missing. Streeter says he was drinking that evening and passed out on his couch. When police follow up on his story, both a neighbor and a girlfriend corroborate his alibi.
There was nothing I was not willing to tell them, and there was nothing that I didn't tell them.
He was cooperative, and he did talk to the police and did cooperate with interviews and showed a strong interest in the case from the beginning.
Bart Streeter passes a polygraph and is cleared as a suspect. He says he continues to be tormented by the disappearance of his mother and sister.
I believe that it actually broke me, that I would just sit and cry, and it hurts so bad that you are afraid you'll never be able to quit. But you don't know what to do.
Next, police turn their attention to Susie Streeter's past relationships.
Susie Streeter had questionable people in her background, and we definitely spent a lot of time investigating the individuals that she was close to.
They are particularly interested in Susie's ex-boyfriend, Dustin Rekla, a young man Susie broke up with just a few months prior to her disappearance. The couple split when Dustin was arrested for vandalism at a local cemetery. Police wonder if this crime could be linked to a motive in the disappearance. After driving around one night, Dustin and his friends vandalized a mausoleum, and the following morning, kids found skulls in a tree at a local park.
What we found interesting during this portion of the investigation is he was also dating Susie Streeter during this time frame.
Days later, a bizarre tip is called in to police. The tip refers to a deal brokered at a local pawn shop where some young men were selling gold teeth fillings.
At the time of the gold fillings, of course, we didn't know that it would tie back into the mausoleum.
Officers discover that the gold fillings were removed from skulls taken by the mausoleum vandals.
The officer went to the pawn shop, and basically the pawn shop owner had taken the ID of the person pawning it, and it would check to a Mike Clay.
Michael Clay, a local teen, is apparently a close friend of Susie's ex-boyfriend, Dustin Rekla. When the officer visits the Clay residence to follow up, he observes some strange items in the house when Clay's sister answers the door. A poster with a large circle, candles, and an animal skull. Clay is not home at the time, but the unusual scene raises a lot of questions about the young man.
Which kind of led some to speculate that, there had been some type of maybe a ritual or some type of a cult-type activity had taken place. You're talking about Springfield, Missouri, where it's the heart of the Bible Belt, more or less. And when you start talking about ritualistic activity or some type of satanic activity, no one really wanted to talk about that. And even the police didn't want to talk about it.
When the officer returns to Clay's house the next day to question him, all of the suspicious paraphernalia is gone. Both Dustin Reckla and Michael Clay are brought to the police station for questioning about the vandalism. Susie Streeter provides police with a statement on her knowledge of the incident. It is testimony that is used to charge the two boys and will be presented in court in September of that year.
She was cooperative with the police investigation and provided us with a written statement. She wasn't even aware of what they were going to do until after it had been done.
Now, 4 months later, Susie, along with her friend Stacy and her mom, are missing. A week into the investigation, police call Clay and Reckla back to the station to find out if there's a connection between Susie's statement on the vandalism and her disappearance. A news crew in Springfield reports to the community that Michael Clay makes some incriminating statements during his interrogation.
And he stated he wished those bitches were dead. And when I heard that, a chill went up my spine.
If he was hoping they were dead, did he do it?
Why on earth would this young man want them dead? And then for them to be missing, it's never made any sense.
He explained later in future interviews of why he made the statement, and he blamed having a disagreement or a personality conflict with the investigator that was questioning during this case.
Both Dustin Reckla and Michael Clay deny having anything to do with the disappearance of the three women. The night Susie, Cheryl, and Stacy disappeared, Dustin Reckla says he was at a local band's rock concert and after party.
It's not a definite airtight alibi. Michael Clay had a similar alibi that it couldn't be confirmed or denied for that evening.
But almost 3 weeks after the boys plead not guilty in court to institutional vandalism, the women are still missing.
At first, I really thought that maybe Michael and some of that group had gotten really angry at Susie and that maybe they held them somewhere and had them until after the court date. And I thought, well, maybe they'll let them go then.
Eventually, the boys changed their plea to guilty and are placed on probation. Police say both Michael Clay and Dustin Reckla have cooperated throughout the investigation, but neither can be ruled out as persons of interest. Coming up, a tip from 800 miles away brings to light a new suspect with a violent history.
He is almost as bad a nightmare as their disappearance.
It's early July 1992, and the three women from Springfield, Missouri have been missing for 4 weeks. Family members and police are at a loss. Until a new and frightening piece of information surfaces about the morning of June 6th, the day of their disappearance.
The person reported she was on her front porch at 6:30 to 7 o'clock a.m. on Sunday and observed a van turning around. She thought it was Susie Streeter that was driving the van.
It's a disturbing story. Even though the sighting takes place in a neighborhood over a mile east of the house on Delmar Street, police believe it's a solid lead.
I think very likely Susie was the driver and gone the wrong way from her house, and you can't get to the freeway off that street. She said that she looked like she had been crying a lot, and that she pulled up in the driveway and she heard a man's voice in the back saying, "Don't do anything stupid, just back out, turn around and get us out of here."
The witness says she did not come forward earlier because she hadn't yet seen the missing persons poster. Once she did, she recognized Susie Streeter as the driver of the van. The witness describes the van in detail to police, and an official search gets underway.
The vehicle is identified as a 1964 to 1970 Dodge panel van.
The actual witness that reported it described it as a silver to green. She even described it as celery-colored van.
Police buy the same model van, painted green, and park it outside the police station with a sign asking people to contact them with any information. Soon, the calls start flooding in.
The paper boy thought he had seen a brown van in the neighborhood, but it was still dark, and he said he really couldn't tell. So they were looking for brown vans for a while.
The van in this case has been reported by numerous witnesses as various colors from brown to green to silver to white. It's been pretty much every color there is.
Police search thousands of vans. They find nothing linked to the 3 missing women. But police maintain that the sighting should not be discounted.
It's like most sightings that you have. It's hard to corroborate or fully confirm that that information is correct. However, we give a lot of credibility to the tip.
Janice McCall continues pushing the story in the news, hoping to spark more leads. And after a Florida family sees the 3 missing women's story on TV, it appears her plan has worked.
We had a tip on this case from Florida.
The tip steers police toward a new suspect named Robert Craig Cox.
Robert Cox is a very interesting individual that has a very lengthy criminal history.
The person with the tip believes Cox is connected to the disappearance of the Springfield 3. The caller is the brother of a woman named Sharon Zellers, a 19-year-old who in 1978 was the victim of a gruesome crime.
Sharon Zellers was a young woman, and she worked and had gotten off late. Sharon was abducted and murdered.
At the time of Sharon's murder, Robert Craig Cox had just graduated basic training as an Army Ranger. To celebrate, he took a trip to Florida with his family. Late one night, his mother had to rush him to the hospital when he returned to their motel room covered in blood.
He received injuries that evening, the night of the murder, where he had a portion of his tongue bitten off.
He told investigators he bit his tongue off.
The nurse said he couldn't have bit his own tongue off because it was bit from someone the other direction.
Eventually, Sharon Zeller's body was found just a few hundred feet from Cox's motel room in a nearby sewage facility. Cox was questioned by police, but in the late 70s, DNA evidence wasn't advanced enough to be conclusive, so Cox was not charged. Instead, he traveled to California with the Army, where he was convicted of abducting and assaulting 2 women in 2 separate incidents. He is taken into police custody in 1985.
While he's in custody in California, they decide to indict him for Sharon Zeller's murder in Florida. They extradite him down. He has a jury trial. He's found guilty and placed on death row.
And his sentence was overturned by the Florida Supreme Court because they said they didn't have enough evidence on him.
Many of the jurors have been interviewed since then and are all convinced that he is responsible for the murder.
Cox was then extradited back to California to finish serving his sentence for the 2 abductions. But in 1992, Robert Craig Cox is paroled. He goes back to his hometown where his parents still live, Springfield, Missouri. Lacking sophisticated technology, it's difficult for local police departments to keep track of convicted criminals in their area.
There wasn't a big list like we have nowadays that people can check on.
So the Zellers family keeps tabs themselves on the man they believe is responsible for Sharon's murder. When they discover that Cox was in the area when the 3 women went missing, they tip off the Springfield Police Department. The police begin to zero in on Robert Craig Cox. Cox works as an underground utilities worker, a job which some speculate could be a good con for getting into a stranger's home at 2 a.m.
What better ruse in the middle of a night to knock on somebody's door and say, you got a gas problem? You know, he's got the uniform, the truck.
But his previous profession intrigues investigators even more. Cox was a mechanic at a used car lot where Stacy McCall's father was also employed as a salesman.
We have confirmed that they both worked there at the time.
My girls were very good and missed their daddy, and they would go up and take his dinner many times. You know, they thought, well, maybe he saw Stacy and was going after her.
Could Cox have seen Stacy McCall visiting her dad at work and targeted her?
Stacy was the type of young woman that when you saw her, she'd be striking and people would turn to look, you know, because she would make people's head turn.
But investigators think the likelihood of a planned abduction is slight, since Stacy and Susie made a last-minute decision to sleep at the house on Delmar Street.
On the night of the disappearance, Robert Cox indicated that he attended a golf tournament and spent the night at his parents' residence that evening, and then took his girlfriend and her child to church the following morning. We interviewed the girlfriend, and she also indicated that he took her and her child to church the next morning, which would have been Sunday.
With Cox's alibi corroborated, police are once again facing a dead end. Still, police do not rule out Cox as a person of interest in this case.
I can't think of another case that would come close to this level in the last 20 years that I've worked here. It is very uncommon to have 3 adult females just totally disappear from a residence.
Coming up, shocking rumors about the 3 missing women are taken more seriously.
Let's find out what's underneath that concrete. I want my family found.
3 years have passed since the 3 women from Springfield have gone missing, and the police are no closer to answers than they were at the onset of this investigation. In March 1995, a fateful event brings investigators back to a person of interest in the case. Robert Craig Cox, who has since moved to Texas, is arrested for aggravated robbery. When police in Springfield hear about it, they decide to revisit Cox's alibi in the case of the Springfield 3. When they re-interview his former girlfriend, she provides a story very different from her original statement.
During this interview, she recanted her previous statement, saying that she had talked to Robert Cox just prior to our interview, and that she had indicated she was with him at church when she really wasn't.
Robert Craig Cox could charm anyone, and apparently he had told her that if the police came out, she was to say that.
Basically said she provided the initial story because she felt that he may have been involved in some other crimes. However, she was unaware of the 3 missing women case or that he was a suspect.
Now, without a solid alibi for the morning of June 7th, 1992, Robert Craig Cox jumps to the top of a short list of suspects in the case of the Springfield 3.
He is almost as bad a nightmare as their disappearance.
Springfield police travel to Texas to interview Cox, who is serving a life sentence. But it takes more than one visit to crack him.
We made 3 separate trips to Texas to interview him in the Department of Corrections.
Each time, Cox denies any involvement with the 3 missing women and frustrates the police with cagey answers.
He's toyed with the Springfield Police Department and with a lot of us in the media. I think he gets off on toying with all of us.
Cox tells police just enough to intrigue them about his knowledge of the case, but not enough to incriminate himself. About a year later, still incarcerated in Texas, Cox gives an interview about the 3 missing women to a Springfield TV reporter.
I know that they're dead. I'll say that. I know that.
That's not a theory.
Yeah, but I know that I just know that they're dead. I believe that a person who did this had experience, knew what they were doing. I believe that the 3 missing women are very close to Springfield.
It can either be a combination of just wanting attention, or it could be that he actually has some involvement in it. But he obviously enjoys the fact that people were contacting him and spending time looking into him as a possible suspect.
Kathy Baird, a crime reporter for the Ozark Sentinel, becomes fascinated with the 3 missing women when she moves to Springfield in 2000. She's convinced the case can be cracked.
I said, there's got to be something somewhere. Somebody knows something. And I picked the case up and started working it.
Baird makes a lot of contacts in the community and starts receiving tips of her own. Most assume the women have been murdered and name possible locations of the bodies. Police are skeptical about some of the information.
We have a lot of rumors about possible locations of where the 3 missing women have been buried or their remains are located. Most of it is psychic information that was provided in a dream or a vision from an individual.
But Kathy Baird believes one of the sites is mentioned by too many sources, too many times to be a coincidence. The South parking garage at Cox Hospital. While Cox Hospital and Robert Craig Cox have no connection, it's another bizarre twist in a convoluted case. In 2007, 15 years after Cheryl, Susie, and Stacy go missing, Kathy asks a mechanical engineer named Rick Norland to come to Springfield, Missouri.
She explained that she was investigating the disappearance of some women. She didn't tell me how many.
Norland, who was called to Ground Zero after 9/11 to help dig out debris, is an expert in ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, which produces underground images.
You're able to visualize what's below the surface or hidden.
GPR can detect buried objects, changes in the ground's material, and cracks or voids in the soil. But the image GPR projects is not as clear as an actual photograph.
So you get an image that you have to interpret. It's going to give you a black and white image, and a lot of times it looks like a bunch of squiggly lines, so somebody doesn't know what they're looking at.
Kathy and Norland scan one corner of Cox Hospital's south parking garage. The resulting images reveal more than anyone expects.
And when I got done marking out these perimeters and stood back, there's 3 anomalies, roughly about the same size. 2 are parallel and 1 was kind of perpendicular to the other 2. They were relatively shallow. Radar can't tell that there's a body down there, but this anomaly is very consistent with what we would see in a gravesite location.
The only way to confirm if there are bodies buried in this location is to dig for them. But the Springfield Police Department isn't convinced the GPR results are conclusive enough to justify tearing up the concrete.
He has credible resources and credible references for his work. Anomaly is a lot different than saying there's 3 missing people buried below the concrete.
Still, regardless of the faith police have in GPR science, there's another problem.
The parking garage was built a year after the disappearance of the 3 missing women. It's well after the fact.
People will tell you that, oh, it couldn't be the site because it was still under construction. Yeah, exactly. If it had been completed, there'd be nothing to it. But it wasn't.
Let's find out what's underneath that concrete. I want my family found.
I am willing to be wrong. Prove me wrong.
In December 2010, 3 years after Rick Norland scans the parking garage, police are reconsidering their position.
Chief Williams says that he plans to get all parties involved, the hospital, former and current law enforcement who worked on the case, also the prosecutor's office, get everyone together in the next 2 weeks to try to move forward on this case.
If there was a way to basically put those rumors to rest, then we would look at that.
We're still open-minded, and we still look into every tip and lead, and we will continue on this one.
If they find remains there, then we're going to have to deal with it.
In nearly 19 years since the women disappeared, investigators have logged over 5,000 tips, followed leads in 21 states, and searched the woods throughout the Ozarks to no avail. For the families of the missing women, the lack of closure makes their loss even harder to bear. Janice McCall frequently visits a memorial for the 3 women to keep her hope alive.
I take the attitude that my daughter is still alive because they have not found her and they have not found any remains.
It's especially painful for Bart Streeter, who never got the chance to reconcile with his mother and sister.
Now, I've always believed that we would have worked it out, but we never saw each other again.
When Stacy first disappeared, I expected her back that day, and then a week, then a month, and then a year. And I just recently realized that she's been gone longer than I had her. And for her to be gone more than 18 years is heartbreaking. It's so sad.
People have asked me before what I want. I want vengeance. I love my mother and sister. But I'll settle for justice.
If there's 1/10, 1/100th of 1% of a chance that I can find her, I want that. I want to find her. I want her to know how very much she means to us.
वांगत चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार वांगत चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार वांगत चल चलिए लगदे सोहने नजारे उथे बली अल्लाह दे प्यारे उथे लगदे सोहने नजारे उथे बली अल्लाह दे प्यारे सुना कंगन दावे बाजार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार सजना चल चलिए पीर गली दे रस्ते मेरे मुर्शद वांगत वसदे सुन पीर गली दे रस्ते मेरे मुर्शद वांगत वसदे नाल तकड़ा चल के बाजार सजना चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार सजना चल चलिए कईयां वाले दी शाने विच वांगत साडी जाने कईयां वाले दी शाने विच वांगत साडी जाने साडा लार दरबार नाल प्यार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए ओ वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सजना चल चलिए पुंछ रजौरियों आंदे उते सोहनी रौनक लांदे लोक पुंछ रजौरियों आंदे उते सोहनी रौनक लांदे कश्मीर दी सोहनी बहार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सजना चल चलिए सजना मोड़ मुहारा आया वांगत बीच बहारा हुण सजना मोड़ मुहारा आया वांगत बीच बहारा अज बाबा नगरी सज गई सोनी रौनक जावेद वे लग गई अज बाबा नगरी सज गई सोनी रौनक जावेद वे लग गई करो मिल के दुआवा यार वांगत चल चलिए सोने मुर्शद दे दरबार वांगत चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए आया 26 जेठ यार सजना चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए